Hey, good morning to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is Thursday, the 24th of September, 2020. I am in the Covington, Louisiana area on my way back towards North Carolina, finally. Been on the road a lot this year. Just finished up the work with Tropical Storm Beta down along the Texas coast and retrieved the equipment and tried to make our way all the way into Mississippi yesterday, but we got stuck. I'll show you that in just a moment. So today we're going to look forward to the pattern, and we can actually look forward to the pattern now because there's no hurricanes in the future for the time being. We're going to be doing equipment retrieval from Sally starting later today. We're going to meet with Greg Nordstrom, our colleague over in Gulfport, and then like the little lineup there shows you, we're going to talk about the traffic jam yesterday. And then where we go from here. Where do we all go from here? What does October look like from the climatological perspective? You know, the long term, what would it kind of look like anyway? And then what can we expect going forward over the next few weeks? So first, the traffic jam yesterday. Rarely do I ever get a chance, thank goodness, to put together a time lapse of a traffic jam. Here we are moving through Texas. Everything's fine until we get to the Sabine River, which is right there at the Texas-Louisiana border, and this traffic jam ensues. Google says 28-minute delay, and then it says 59-minute delay, and then it said 5-hour and 4-minute delay, and we learn that a tanker or a truck had its fuel tank ruptured just a couple miles inside the Louisiana line, spilling diesel fuel over about 4 miles with a little bit of rain mixed in. And so Mike Farrow and myself sat in this same spot with thousands of other people for a little over 5 hours. And man, it was, but here's the thing, it really gave me a look, and this is the worst traffic jam I have ever been in. And then it finally got moving after 9 o'clock, and we stopped at Arby's for supper. Good old Arby's. That was all that was open. I mean, it was after 10 o'clock, after we could, get somewhere. But seriously, I try to look at things very positively when I can. And even though it sucked to sit in traffic, it definitely gave me a look at what some of you guys go through when you have to evacuate and some of the traffic jams that you have been in. And it was 15 years ago today that Hurricane Rita made landfall basically in the Johnson Bayou area of Louisiana, the Sabine River, Johnson Bayou area, and of course it devastated Holly Beach and Cameron, Louisiana. But before that, on the 21st, 22nd, in that time frame of September, millions of people were trying to evacuate parts of southeast Texas. Many hours on the road, many tens of hours. It added up to, Floyd in 1999 created a massive evacuation nightmare. Matthew to some extent in 2016, but certainly Irma. And so I try to put myself in your shoes. We call that empathy. And there's a difference between sympathy and empathy where I can kind of feel what you're going through. It helps me in the future. And sitting in the traffic like that, I'm just trying to move east and get into Mississippi so we can resume our work in retrieving equipment. It's not like I'm in a big hurry. It was an inconvenience, and yes, it sucked, but at the end of the day, it really taught me a lot more about what you guys go through, some of you that have to evacuate and you sit in traffic. So there's the glass half full, and I don't want any sympathy or empathy that I sat in traffic for 5 hours. It goes with the territory. Don't feel bad for me. I feel bad for you guys when you have to do that for hurricane evacuations. All right, so there you go. But we made it. Now I'm in Covington, and we can take a look at the pattern here. And for the first time in a while, no active tropical cyclones anywhere on the map, and that's certainly good news. We all need a break. There's a tropical wave sitting out here. We have the remnants of Beta sitting over here, and that's pretty much it. A little bit of a frontal boundary draped across, extending all the way down into the parts of the Northeast Caribbean. Maybe a little bit of rain shower activity for the Virgin Islands, which is always good. That's needed, to fill those tanks. but no active systems seen in the Atlantic Basin for the foreseeable future. Just so I don't neglect it, go to the Hurricane Center page. We do have lull over here in the Pacific, Tropical Storm Lowell. Not going to amount to anything. It'll move in the direction of Hawaii, which is right over here on the left side of the screen, but do not worry about it. It is a non-event. All right? So the vorticity signature really helps to paint the picture as well, quite literally, that there's not much going on. A little bit of energy out here in the eastern Atlantic, some energy associated with that front, but nothing that looks like it's going to bundle that energy and become anything that we have to be concerned with. Here's the energy associated, what we call vorticity, associated with the remnants of beta, still producing heavy rain, a few river rises with that locally heavy rainfall in a few locations, and some showers and thunderstorms that move off the Gulf of Mexico. And that'll be the story for the next day or so. And then finally, this whole mess of energy will scoot on out off the Atlantic coast and just kind of get mixed up in other weather systems, and that'll be it. And we'll have a good, solid period of time of nothing on the tracking map. But, okay, and there's always a but, right? And we got to keep it real, you know, and there's a difference. We're not hyping anything up. I don't do that unless it needs to be. You know, when you get something like a Category 4 Laura with a 15 to 17 foot surge, you got to hype that up and make sure people know. When you get a Katrina, a Rita, a Harvey that's going to do what it did, you understand. There's times for it, and then there's times for just general discussion and a look at what's going on. And that's what this is. The field of play, as it were, is still very much primed, and we cannot ignore that. You know, hope is not a planning tool. We talk about that often. It's a phrase that I picked up from a good friend of mine, Dan Summers, down in Collier County. He's in emergency management, almost a mentor of mine over the years, a really good friend, and that's a phrase I've heard him say. You know, we're very grateful that the pattern is quiet right now, and we can hope that there are no more hurricanes. But hope by itself is not a planning tool. You cannot, well, I hope it doesn't happen, and therefore I'm not going to do anything about it. And that works with our health, it works with planning in financial situations, and it works when dealing with Mother Nature. And we can use tools like this map here to our advantage. And what do we see? You know, we hope that things don't get busy again, but we know that that's probably not going to be the case. Why? Because we have this La Nina, and it is an official La Nina. The anomalous cooling, that means a departure from the average or the norm in the tropical Pacific out here. Quite a bit colder than it should be. And that is getting stronger. And why does this matter? Well, the La Nina usually means less rising motion over this area, less convection, and therefore less in the way of wind shear, especially for this area right through here, and to some extent out into a good deal of the tropical Atlantic. It cuts that down. And on the flip side, what do you notice? Very warm off the coast of Africa still, a nice trail and wake here from Paulette and the Teddy, sorry, whew, I almost blew it. Paulette and Teddy taking some heat out through this region, all through here. That's good. Hurricanes doing their thing. But we haven't had any hurricanes taking the heat out of this area. Sally and Laura and now Beta. Beta put just a little dent over here. But we still have plenty of energy available in the ocean through this area, and that extends around Florida. All right, and I'll talk about Florida in particular in a moment. You folks in Central America, west part of Cuba, maybe Jamaica, you know, your hurricane season is far from over, and we can see that in the graph. You know, we've come a long way, and we have made it through the peak over here. And we had kind of a rough end to August, and there was, and this is just the climatological. This is what it looks like if you go back, you know, more than 100 years. And then it tails off in September, but then you get that secondary peak in October. And we're heading there. And the last few years, we have seen that. You know, we can look at 2014. We had Gonzalo, October. 2015 was Joaquin. 2016, we had Matthew. 2017, Nate, which, Nate was not that bad, but boy, Nate is one of those that really had a lot of potential. But anyway, it ended up as a Category 1 Nate in October. 2018, need I say more, with Category 5 Hurricane Michael on October the 10th. And that fits in right there perfectly, right in that little notch that comes up. There's a reason that there's that notable uptick. The Atlantic has a big rise in activity, and then it comes down quickly. Then there's a secondary peak in October. It doesn't always happen. 2019, we had Tropical Storm Nestor, and that wasn't too much of a big deal. What will 2020 hold? Well, it seems like 2020 is, quote, a thing, that everything bad is happening in 2020. You can make the argument for that. And so we don't know, but there are signs that things will pick up again for a brief period. And the good thing is the peak in October doesn't last nearly as long as this uptick that we see through here at the middle and end of August through late September. The secondary peak is much shorter. The pattern is changing. Deep troughs are digging into the nation's midsection and parts of the east. Colder temperatures, all that good stuff. I don't like it. That's just me. I like summer, but whatever. And a different way to look at it is the points of origin. The last 10 days or so of September, all through here, right? You see not much activity in the Gulf of Mexico overall. It's kind of clustered in the Western Caribbean, and then a lot of it out in the open Atlantic, especially the subtropics. Pretty wide dispersion of points of origin. But the area to really notice is here in the Western Caribbean. Now, luckily, I think between now and the 30th, we have 6 days to go, we're not going to see anything. So let's move ahead to the first 10 days of October. Now, this only goes out to 2015. Whoever updates this, I can't wait for them to update it and get us through 2019. That'd be nice. There's a couple guys I'll send an email to and see what they can tell me. It can't be that hard to do. And I know they're busy. I'm not besmirching them, but it would be great to have this updated. But anyhow, notice what happens when we switch from the end of September into October. We really start to lose the deep tropical development out here, and we start to concentrate it much more in the Caribbean. And I think that's where we're going to see it this year. I mean, it just makes sense. It's not like I'm some incredible genius that figured that out. You just look at the history, and it tells you. And so the area that we're most concerned with when we get to this time frame is Central America, our friends down here, Western Cuba, and Florida. Look at all of these tracks that intersect Florida over the years. And most of them are coming out of the Caribbean here. And I'll just draw a general track. You get them up here. You had Michael that went up there. It had a different origin point, but you get the idea. You guys in Florida and gals, the Sunshine State, October is typically your most perilous month overall. Believe it or not. It's only by a little bit, but it's more active in terms of major hurricane landfalls in October from the Caribbean than any other month. So we're not out of it yet. We have a ways to go. Oh, that's better, the way it zoomed in for me. We have a ways to go. So, it's just trying to keep you aware. As we get through October, there's a lot of other things that are going to be on our minds, right? The geopolitical stuff, holy cow. We're still dealing with the COVID stuff, and I just want to make sure you stay aware and you don't turn your back on the hurricane season because we're not done yet. But, again, glass half full, enjoy the lull while we have it. So what we're going to do, I'm still hanging out with Mike Farrow. He hasn't abandoned me yet after all this time together since late May, working on tropical stuff and everything related. Like I said, we're over here in the Covington area. We're going to go over to Gulfport later, meet up with Greg, and then Mike and I are going to make our way, finally, get back into Alabama and get the equipment that we set up for Sally. And we need to go down here to Dauphin Island and get some equipment from there. We need to go over into this area and get the camera system off the Fish River. We need to, right over here, get the cameras that we had along the Perdido River. I got to go down to Gulf Shores and Fort Morgan. So there's a lot to do. And I'm very, very excited about getting the pressure sensor from Gulf Shores. The box there, the camera box, I mean, it is right there on the waterfront at the pavilion area, because the eye of Sally went right over it. And it's going to be really fascinating to get that and see what the lowest pressure was, as it was taking a sample every minute. And so that'll be good to see. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We'll put the stream on our public YouTube channel. All of that, of course, supported by our crowdfunding folks through Patreon. Thank you all very much for all of that. Eventually, I'll be able to make my way back home sometime this weekend, hopefully. So once we get the data, I'll share with you all what we found. We'll send it over to Brent. He's our compiling guy. He does a great job of that. And I'll tell you what we got from Sally. And then we'll just wait and see what October brings. You know, we still have a few days in September, but I think it's going to be relatively quiet, if not significantly quiet. And that'll give us all a much-needed breather. All right? All right. Well, that is it from me. I'm going to be quiet and upload this. Special thanks to Kari for putting these graphics together so that I don't have to worry about it. That's all part of the crowdfunding. Patreon.com/HurricaneTrack if you want to get involved. It's more than just hurricane stuff. Trust me. And I'll talk about what we're going to do with that later on as we look ahead, believe it or not, to 2021 and all the projects that we're going to be able to do going forward. But that's for another day. You guys have a good rest of your Thursday. Thanks, as always, for giving me a little bit of your time. I appreciate it very much. I am Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.